Well, ladies and gentlemen, Thursday night was the tale of two town halls. On one side, you had Joe Biden, batter up in his 5 and under T-ball town hall, moderated by ABC coach Little Napoleon himself, George Stephanopoulos. Old Georgie put on his coach's hat and walked poor Biden out to the batter's box to toss up some softball questions to him and before the American people. What was missing were the hard questions. You know, the ones being asked by Savannah Guthrie over on Trump's town hall on NBC. It was a grilling and chilling session with President Trump again being spoken over and debated by another left-wing mainstream media moderator and Joe Biden. Well catered and nearly handheld by ABC. Folks, I've had enough of the disdain from the Democrats and their desperate members of the media. The gloves are off. Sit back as I publicly pummel these anti-conservative clowns who for far too long have played fast and loose with the facts. This is Eric Wright, and you are listening to the Closet Conservative Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the game is up. It is official. Liberal mainstream media and the members and executives of social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter have and continue to be in the pocket of the Democratic Party. Nothing has been more apparent than last night's pathetic political attempt at the presidential town halls, moderated by the leaders of ABC's and NBC's liberal mainstream media outlets. The pandering peacock Savannah Guthrie attempted to take on the president, often speaking over top of him and trying to answer questions asked by those in attendance. Meanwhile, over on ABC, Georgie Stephanopoulos, short in stature and in substance, sidelined any questions regarding the new revelation about the New York Post article concerning Hunter Biden and the damaging emails and photographs from his left-behind laptops that depicted the deadbeat offspring of the Democratic frontrunner as a philandering, wannabe, offshore businessman, cocaine addict, and sexual deviant. Now, please let me go ahead and get this out. I never have and never will attack anyone with an addiction problem. Why? Because I have known many people who have battled both alcoholism and drugs, worked hard, and overcome. However, in saying that, it is clear that Joe Biden did not show concern over his son's actions. Hunter, despite being kicked out of the United States military for drug abuse and playing worldwide matchmaker for his father with nations and leaders of countries with more than questionable character, Joe Biden continued to do and say nothing, not one peep. I would submit to you listening that cover your son's backside mantra is probably and perhaps what led to Hunter's continued destructive behavior. But ladies and gentlemen, Hunter Biden is a loser. Nothing to do with his addiction, but more to the point that he has never done anything of significance but caused damage and despair for him and his family, including the strange relationship of batting cleanup for his dead brother Bo's widowed wife. That's right, Hunter fathered a child with a woman while dating his dead brother's wife. I'm sure that such an action brought admiration from the Biden family. But enough about the liberals' loser son. I want to talk about the continued hypocrisy of the left and the liberal mainstream media who have failed to air 1 second or ask one question to Joe Biden about these newly revealed emails of his son, setting up backdoor meetings with his father while he served as our nation's vice president. Since before being elected, Donald Trump has been held to a different standard, not higher, but drastically different. The mainstream media has attacked him and his family on every front. But you see, folks, the same is not said if you dress in dapper Democratic blue, in which case you get a hall pass, free from public scrutiny and answering tough questions. Case in point, Twitter and Trump. There is no secret that our commander-in-chief prefers social media to get his opinion out to the American public. During last night's anti-Trump liberal temple talk on NBC, Donald Trump stated that due to the apparent hypocrisy of the left and members of the media, his coverage and his policies are fixed on the tube. And now, Facebook and Twitter are being called on the carpet for intentionally using their influence to sway the election and the ballot box results in November. This week, Twitter indefinitely suspended the account of the White House press secretary for her sharing of the New York Post story concerning Hunter Biden. That's right, folks. Twitter intentionally attempted to influence and deceive the American people into thinking that there's nothing to see here. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone listening today knows that if anything in this story remotely revealed any action or participation involving Donald Trump, the liberal mainstream media would be swarming all over this story like a bunch of bugs around a cold carcass. But you see, that isn't the case. When you are a Democrat in America running for office, you get a free pass. Free to deny, free to absolve, free to apologize, and free to forget. Old Joe Biden doesn't need help in forgetting, folks. In fact, he's probably the best at it. He forgets that during his 47 years in public service, he forgets that he turned his back on blacks in this country. He forgets that his policies as vice president closed the doors to American manufacturing and opened those for his son to countries like China and the Ukraine. Joe Biden forgets that our nation was domestically and internationally weakened while serving under the Obama administration, paying our enemies not to attack us and our allies. The money for missile mentality that progressed the radical regimes of Iran and North Korea, countries that would jump at the chance to kill Americans and our ideals, are messes that Trump has continued to counter and replace. Ladies and gentlemen, liberal cable and social media outlets will have a day of reckoning. That's right. When Donald Trump is reelected on November the 3rd, their crying towels full of tears will be on full display. But what's more, when Trump directs the FBI and the FCC and the Senate Republicans to investigate their intentional efforts to distort the truth and will force their doors shut. You see, when you claim that you are a social media outlet for free speech, you cannot censor, and if you do, you open yourself up as a publisher, not a product of the First Amendment. Blinded by back office and freelance fact checkers, liberals and their mainstream mommy dearests are playing with fire. If you want to be a publisher and censor, you cannot wear the hat and hide behind as a social media platform. You cannot bar hate and incite it yourself. And that is precisely what outlets such as Facebook and Twitter are doing. They know their audience, a bunch of leftist babes that refuse or cannot read or decipher on their own. Call them products of a failed public education, propagated by the liberal agenda to instill socialistic thought and theory into the brains of our nation's young people. For the last 50 years, communism has colored colleges and universities across this country. We are teaching pathetic principles of anti-American allegiances and aptitudes of empathy and suckerhood. Processes of, it isn't my fault, and everyone gets a trophy, has spelled disaster for our nation's development and placated a population of socialistic puppets who deny the principles of accountability and hard work. Instead of learning that the world meets no one halfway, we are churning out children of communistic thought who expect to be catered to like Joe Biden in a presidential town hall. Ladies and gentlemen, our nation is in real trouble past the November election. And should Joe Biden and the left invade the Oval, our country, our courts, and our communities will burn before our very eyes. This is Eric Wright, and you have been listening to the Closet Conservative Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Please remember to give a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends. The Closet Conservative Podcast is a production of The Liberty Loft. Copyright The Liberty Loft, 2020. You can find more shows and information on our website, www.thelibertyloft.com, or any of our social media channels.